Hello and welcome to BitTech. Bit more of an intimate framing today as we're reviewing something a little on the small side. It's Corsair's brand new Sabre RGB Pro Wireless Champion Series ultra lightweight FPS MOBA gaming mouse. Another long one. At least the unboxing should be a quick one. I did make a bit of a hash of the unboxing on this one, so while I fumble with the packaging, let's go over the key features. This mouse is ultra light, weighing in at only 79 grams. It has Corsair's Slipstream wireless technology with sub 1 millisecond connectivity and up to 2000 Hz hyperpolling. Underneath there's a Corsair marksman sensor with 26,000 DPI, Corsair quick strike buttons, and has up to 90 hours of battery life. Part of Corsair's Champion series, the mouse was designed for and tested by professional esports gamers, and one of the key features they wanted was for this mouse to be as light as possible, and it is super light. It's only 79 grams, which is I think less than half of my current mouse, and it took quite a bit of getting used to having a mouse that weighed next to nothing. They also paid a particular attention to the shape of the mouse to ensure it was comfortable for everyone, no matter what kind of grip or hold they use. The mouse can be hooked up either using a cable, via normal Bluetooth, or by Corsair's Slipstream wireless technology. Corsair claims sub 1 millisecond point-to-point wireless latency. It also features something they call intelligent frequency shift, whereby the mouse will choose the quickest frequency currently available in the 2.4 gigahertz range to make sure that you've got the fastest possible connection at all time. This also helps in an environment where there are a lot of wireless devices to make sure there's as little interference as possible. Corsair supply a USB Type A to Type C cable through which you charge the mouse. You can use it wired, and also to update the onboard profiles, which is done through iCUE, and we'll cover that shortly. The Corsair marksman sensor within the Sabre Pro Wireless was developed in conjunction with Pixar to make sure it's as accurate and precise as possible. It can be adjusted in 1 DPI increments from 100 up to 26,000, so you can really fine tune your sensitivity in to get it exactly how you want it. It can also be adjusted on the fly if you need to by holding in the DPI switch and then use the thumb buttons on this side to turn it down and up in 50 DPI increments. It was also designed to consume as little power as possible to make sure that battery lasts as long as possible. The mouse has Corsair's quick strike buttons on top of Omron switches. The quick strike buttons have a sprung force pulling them down on top of the switch, so there's no gap between the switch and the button, so clicks are instantaneous. It also has a rapid rebound spring to make sure that clicks can be done as quickly as you can fire them out. So there is the usual accompaniment of left and right mouse buttons, a middle scroll wheel button, back and forward buttons on the side, and then the DPI switch on top below the mouse wheel. Underneath we have that marksman sensor. There is a little cubby for the wireless receiver. If you want to take your mouse somewhere with you, you can stow it away in there so it doesn't get lost. A switch at the bottom on the very left is for the Slipstream wireless, on the very right for Bluetooth, and in the middle switches the mouse off. The button above that is to cycle between the different hardware profiles that can be saved directly onto the mouse, with an RGB LED above it to show you which profile you've switched to. The mouse pads are replaceable and are made from 100% PTFE, so it's as smooth as possible. and then we have the USB-C port in the top of the mouse for charging and for saving those profiles on the mouse. To adjust the lighting and DPI and save the profiles to the mouse, that's all done through iCUE, which we'll have a quick look at now. Right, so in iCUE you'll see both the mouse and the receiver. If we just go into the receiver a second, if for some reason it's not pairing up with the mouse, you can do that here. The other settings you can do is adjust the polling rate and also check for firmware updates. So we've got a fair few options here. You can see that there are 2 key assignment options and 2 lighting options, and that's because these 2 hardware ones only have the options that can be saved onto the mouse and don't require iCUE present on the computer in order to work. So on the key assignments page, you can reassign any of these 6 buttons on top of the mouse to different things. So if we select the forward button and go to new assignment, so the keystroke is for if you want to assign a combination of keys, for instance Control C or Control V. Language keys are for various language functions, putting accents on letters. You can reassign the mouse buttons to other mouse buttons and functions. For instance, if you want to toggle your DPI more often and need the button in a more convenient location, you can do that there. There's also a sniper option, which we'll cover a bit more on the DPI section. Keyboard is just for one single key assignment. Then you can have a bit of text type in. You can reassign media keys, launch an app, disable the key altogether, stop you pressing it by accident. You can set it to switch to a different profile, and then also record macros. So on the hardware key assignments, there's just a few options that you're missing, that being launch app disable and switch profiles. On the lighting effects page, you can set the logo on the mouse to a variety of different patterns and colors. These lighting link options making the mouse sync up with other Corsair RGB products that you have on your computer. In hardware lighting, again, we've just got a few less options there, and you don't have the Corsair link option as well. In the DPI page, you can set up your own custom DPI profile, but there's 3 defaults. There's the this default, then hardware DPI mode 1 and hardware DPI mode 2, each with 5 stages of DPI and then that sniper option. So when you've assigned the sniper function to a button, when you press and hold that button, it decreases the DPI to that preset level, making minor adjustments easier. You can adjust each of the DPI stages with the slider or by typing in a DPI number. You can also change the colors that are displayed on the DPI switch, so when you're flicking between them, you know exactly what you're switching to. Once you've made the adjustments that you want, particularly for hardware key assignments, lighting and DPI, you need to go into device settings, and then down the bottom of device settings is the 5 onboard profiles. This isn't showing at the moment as I haven't got the mouse hooked up by USB, which you need to do in order to save those profiles. Here in device settings, there's a whole range of other options, including updating the firmware, disabling DPI adjustments, brightness, the sleep mode, and a number of others there. Right, so I've just plugged the mouse in, so it's in USB mode, and if we go get a new profile, and then let's set up a quick lighting effect, that will be fine. Okay, go to device settings, and then we can save that here. If I click on one of the profiles and click overwrite, and there we go, that's now saved directly onto the mouse, and I can take this mouse anywhere and use that profile. So there's just one more page which also needs the mouse connecting, and that's surface calibration. So you can tune the mouse to your mouse mat or whatever surface you use, and to do that you need to click and hold on this little arrow and then run the mouse around in circles. There is a speed meter down the bottom that tells you whether you're doing it at the right speed. Gotta try and keep it at the middle there. Just run it round and round. And there you go. Now your mouse is calibrated to your particular mouse surface, so you get the best performance possible. So I've been using the mouse a couple of weeks now, and before we get into how I found it, there needs to be a prelude or caveat, just because I have really oddly shaped hands. My friend at school called them postman pat hands, because I have a fairly normal to maybe slightly large palm, but my fingers are really short, fat and stubby. And it has always made finding a mouse that suits me very difficult. For the last 6 years, I've been using this Mad Catz Rat 7, which was an absolute godsend because its adjustability allowed me to hold the mouse exactly how I wanted it. And again, my grip is quite odd as well. It may look from that sort of angle as though it's a palm grip, but very little of my palm actually touches the mouse. It's just this pad that sits below the middle to ring fingers. That's the only bit that's really going to touch it. Anything from here down, definitely not touching the mouse. And that's probably because I like to have the sensitivity extremely high. If I can't spin around 360 degrees with just a flick of my wrist, then it's not high enough. As you'll see in the footage I took of gaming, my arm doesn't move at all, really. It's just my hand that moves. So one of the biggest challenges I had was getting used to a mouse that weighed so little. This weighs, I think, just a little bit more than half of the Rat 7, but I don't have any of the additional weights on that. It's as light as it can be, but I do like a bit of weight because I have it so sensitive. I like a bit of resistance to control the accuracy, and with this being so light, I quite often overshot because I'm so used to having that extra weight and resistance. So it did take quite a while getting used to it. But I did eventually, slight tweaks to the DPI to maybe counter that, and I did eventually get used to it, and I didn't find the lightweight of it that much of an issue maybe after a week, but I suppose after 6 years of using the same mouse, it's always going to be a bit of a challenge getting used to a new one. So I've been using the mouse a couple of weeks now, editing videos, general browsing, and then for gaming, I've been playing Battlefield 4, as this mouse is aimed at the FPS MOBA market, and I don't think I've ever played a MOBA. I thought I'd stick to what I know best and have a crack at a bit of Battlefield. Now, while I was able to get used to the lightweightness with a couple of DPI tweaks, I couldn't really get on with the shape of the mouse. Holding it in the most comfortable position, my thumb only really reaches the back of the two side buttons, rendering the front one a bit useless. I also get quite a bit of fatigue in my ring finger and little finger knuckles, and that's because this has what is essentially a classic mouse shape. A lot of the mice on the market will be shaped like this. It has the buttons fanning out at the top, it dips in, but then particularly on this right side it bulges out a bit lower down. And what happens with my fingers is this pushes out the ring finger and little finger and puts quite a bit of pressure on their bottom knuckles, and that's why I get a bit of pain and fatigue. It's not an oddly shaped mouse. It's very similar to a lot of mice on the market, and it's obviously a popular design, otherwise they wouldn't keep making mice that look like this. But it just doesn't suit my hand proportions, and I do get that fatigue in those two knuckles. So if you suffer similarly to that, maybe this isn't the mouse for you. I mean, that's one of the reasons I love this mouse so much. It's got that straighter right edge so that my fingers don't get pushed out too much, and I can adjust where the thumb sits. I did look at getting a Corsair M65, and I had tried one in a shop a little while ago when we were allowed to handle things in shops, but I wasn't 100% sure on it, so I wanted to try it again, but obviously that's not been possible lately. But it's something to consider if you're thinking about getting this mouse. My odds anatomy aside, the buttons are really quick, really responsive. I do like the mouse buttons. I like there's not a lot of resistance there. The mouse wheel doesn't feel great because they've cut weight from absolutely everywhere. It does feel a little bit cheap and scratchy when you compare that to some of the heavier metal ones, where you're not getting that sort of echo from the plastic, but that's the price you pay for lightening everything up. It's mostly simple and straightforward, getting all your profiles set up and saved on the mouse. It is a little awkward that you've got those two different sections for key assignment and lighting for software and hardware profiles, and essentially you're going to have to save a profile for each, but at least you do have that option to have onboard profiles. So if you take the mouse elsewhere, you know it's going to have settings there that you can use right away. One thing I especially like is that white on the LEDs actually looks white. It's so rare that it does. Normally it's pretty blue, and I quite like white lighting on stuff, so I was a big fan of that. And I really liked the on-the-fly DPI switching, especially when I was trying to get used to it and I was having to tweak it here or there. It was really good that I could do that while in a game. If I found the mouse wasn't moving quite fast enough for me, I didn't have to come out of my game and load up IQ and tweak it. I could just knock it up 50 DPI and see how that was doing, and then maybe after that match I could go in the software and just fine tune it a little bit more. The battery also does last quite a long time. That 90 hours is only if you turn off the LEDs and put it in a power saving mode, which I didn't do, but I didn't have to charge it that often, and I was quite impressed with how long it would run for. I can't remember exactly how long I got out of it. I mean, it would depend on what I was doing, but my PC's on and I'm doing stuff on and off all the time, and I have been gaming quite a bit just to put in some time with the mouse. And I was really impressed with how long it would last, and I'd be thinking I'd be using this for days. How is this not run out? So I was impressed with the battery life on it. So I think Corsair have achieved exactly what they set out to do. The mouse is incredibly lightweight. I honestly couldn't believe it when I got out of the box how light it was. Those buttons are crisp and responsive. The mouse wheel is a little bit scratchy, but those are the kinds of sacrifices that you have to make when trying to get the weight that low. It's got all the sensitivity and adjustability that you'd want with the software and hardware profiles. It's got the flexibility and usability too. If you're new to the channel, welcome. We've got loads more reviews and mods from Alessandro and Mod of the Month on the way, so make sure you subscribe and you won't miss out on any of that. If you've liked today's video, give it a thumbs up and comment down below what mouse have you got, and if you could change one thing about it, what would that be? You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter for all your latest tech news and reviews, links of which will be down below, as well as links to our Discord server and merchandise store, where you can pick up a cool t-shirt, sweatshirt or hoodie to help support the channel, maybe even your own BitTech mug. So that's it from me and the Corsair Sabre RGB Pro Wireless Champion Series mouse. I'll be back soon with another review. Until then, take care folks, I've got to go finish my post round. See you then.